Hello, my name is Wendy Myers. Thank you so much for joining us for the Live to 110 podcast. You can learn more about me at live to110.com and check out my detox program at mineralpower.com. Today we have a friend and very special guest, Cyril Bourke. He's the CEO of NES Australia, and he helped to develop a device called the miHealth. This is a PEMF device, a pulse electromagnetic field device, which does a number of other things. I've been using one since last August and have just been blown away by my results. And I recommend one and a NES Health bioenergetic program to all of my clients, and he's going to be talking to us today about what it does, how it improves your health, and the number of different settings that the miHealth device has on it and how they help your health. Very, very interesting program today. But before we get into the show, we have to do the disclaimer. Please keep in mind this program is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or health condition, and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Please consult your healthcare practitioner before engaging in anything that we suggest today on the show. Our guest today, Cyril Bourke, is the CEO of NES Australia. He became CEO in 2014. Cyril first became involved with the complementary health industry after he's suffering a combination of long-term chronic and acute illnesses. After exhausting his options available within the mainstream medical system, he found dramatic health improvements from energetic complementary alternative therapy. This so impressed him that he changed his career from engineering to energetic healthcare. Cyril now brings his understanding of science and industrial and electronic engineering to the leading edge of healthcare and delivers therapy and practitioner training with enthusiasm and passion. I've been to one of his advanced miHealth trainings. It was fantastic. Cyril is a Rhythm CNR Institute recognized trainer from 2009 to 2014, as well as a NES Health practitioner and trainer. He's an inspirational teacher and motivator to therapists excelling in technical and practical delivery of therapy. You can learn more about Cyril Bourke at neshealth.com. If you haven't bought it already, please check out my book, Limitless Energy, on Amazon. In this book, I talk about how certain metals called aluminum, arsenic, tin, and thallium, and cesium poison enzymes that transport nutrients into our mitochondria, which make our body's energy. And if you have certain metal toxicities, you're going to be at a limited capacity to make the amount of energy your body is capable of. And I talk about this in the book. I go into detail about each metal and how they impact your body's health and how to detox them from your body to improve your body's energy levels. Please check it out at amazon.com. Cyril, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Good morning, Wendy. It's great to see you.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into bioenergetics?
Certainly. Well, I guess at the very beginning, I had no interest in healthcare whatsoever. I was an engineer. I'd worked for various industries, from the oil and gas industry to the electronics industry and the military. And I was just living my life, etc. And I had an accident. I guillotined 2 fingers, and they were reassembled, and they did a beautiful job. But unfortunately, from that point onwards, I started getting digestive tract failure and all sorts of metabolic process problems, and my large intestine and everything else went to pieces. And at that time, I didn't realize the link between energetics and the physical accident and the symptoms I was getting later. And it took me about 4 years to really run out of options with the medical system, and then realize what actually helped me, was a treatment to my hand directly where the scarring was and where everything had been damaged. And within weeks, my digestive tract started to repair, and ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease and all these things resolved within about 3 weeks. And I suddenly realized that the gastroenterologists and the team that was supporting me really were very focused only on pharmacy, and they had no concept or even acceptance that energetics that had been observed for over 4,000 years by the Chinese and others, was actually the cause, the problem with the damage on my hand. So when my hand was treated specifically to connect up that pathway in my hand, suddenly my digestive tract repaired, and it opened an amazing new world for me. And I actually ended up rebelling against shall we say, the traditional system, because when I went to see the gastroenterologist and said, look, you've been treating me for 4 years and you had no form of support other than just keep taking this pill, and when I provided him with the thing that resolved it for me, he didn't want to know. And the receptionist said, well, he's got over 400 patients on that one drug. He's never going to listen to anything else. And the penny dropped, as they say. And I suddenly reapplied my engineering and technical background to healthcare and started studying and started providing it to others, because I realized, just like me, lots of perfectly intelligent people are pigeonholed into a system that actually may not be the most suitable all the time for them. And that's what happened. So I ended up becoming a pain management therapist using biofeedback, and eventually I became a NES practitioner. I actually was introduced to NES and trained, and suddenly found the combination was phenomenal, and it was working so well in clinic. And it's been 8-9 years now, and I've been involved with NES and biofeedback in various manners, teaching as well as providing in clinic.
So you developed a PEMF, a pulse electromagnetic field device called the miHealth. And this is a device used on a NES Health bioenergetic program. It doesn't have to be used on the program, but it's certainly complementary. And I use mine every single day. And can you tell us what exactly that is?
Well, the miHealth, I was part of the team that put that together, and it was quite a comprehensive team of professors and doctors and engineers and a whole mixture of people globally. Harry Massey put that team together, and Peter Fraser's work, one of the original creators of NES, basically they put this team together to build a biofeedback device. Now, my experience was with the Skinar, as you recognize, and that was a device that came out of Russia in about the late 80s. Now, that was an excellent starting point for biofeedback. It had some really great results for what it was doing. But we realized very quickly there were ways of improving that type of technology. Instead of just a device that was mimicking the afferent and efferent nerve, we were able to apply additional information to it. We were using the NES information. We realized we could apply global scaling information. So you have corrective frequencies. You could apply it via a PMF, a pulsed electromagnetic field. So the Russians, I guess, had found one portion of useful electrical therapy, and what we did is we added more and more tools to it. It was a stepping stone, and rightly so. It was a significant one. They did a very good job, and for the late 1980s, that was tremendous. But now there's so many more technologies and knowledge related to how the body interacts. And NES basically put it all together into one package. And even most recently, that one package is able to now do remote scanning globally. So I was very, very, very lucky to be part of the team that developed the miHealth device. And I actually had the honor of presenting it for the first time in Dusseldorf in Germany when it was released to the European public. So I actually was able to stand on stage and do the practicals and show the public what it was like and how to apply it, and show what we'd been doing in clinic during the research period. So yeah, I was very glad to be part of that process, and it's still evolving today. We're still updating and evaluating how to make these technologies better and better. And NES have been doing that for 15 years, continuously reinventing and researching and developing the latest technology for home and clinical use.
Yeah, I know Harry is always meeting with bioenergetic researchers around the world and trying to find, people that are doing this unbelievable cutting edge research in bioenergetics, which I really think is the future of healthcare. It's the future of medicine. And as we know, that conventional medicine is typically very, very behind the times when it comes to actually addressing the underlying root causes of people's health issues. So the miHealth device has three different functions, and I want to talk about all of those in detail so that people understand the power that this device has. So I'm going to hold one up here for anyone watching the video on YouTube. So it's this little handheld device. So it's my little pocket doctor. I use this thing every single day. I love it. And I want to clarify what exactly this device does. So you can use it on body, where it's actually touching your body, touching your skin in various ways. You can use it off body, where you set it on a function. You can use it on your body, or off your body rather. Use it to elicit an effect on your body while it's actually not touching it. And then you can also use it to do a NES Health scan. So let's talk first about on body, when it's actually touching your skin with these two little electrodes. What exactly is it doing?
Okay, well, the first thing it's doing is it looks at the condition of the skin. It actually makes a reading, and then it starts comparing that reading with everything around it. So as you move the device, what happens is it's looking for real-time asymmetry. The symmetry is where two things are the same, and then asymmetry is when one area is different. And it literally is fast enough to recognize where dermatomes and other areas literally are giving us a different reaction in the surface, the electrical dynamics of the skin. Now, they tend to always relate to an area where we can create a reaction, a response, a stimulation. You see hyperemia in the skin, which is like a pinkening where the circulation picks up and hormones and circulation are suddenly activated and the body's engaged in that area. It effectively puts that area of the body back on the maintenance list. Now, what's wonderful about that is if I draw that down your spine, for example, or put it above your abdominal and do a spiral or so, what happens is very quickly, within seconds, it latches onto areas of the body. And you've probably found this, Wendy, where it feels like a magnet. It feels like it's stuck straight to the body. And then it'll ignore another area completely. And that really rapidly escalates the amount of change you get. You're not wasting time anywhere that's not needed. It literally will tell you where to go. It will stick to that area and it'll allow you to stimulate that area. Now, the biofeedback is basically monitoring the condition, adding of the skin, and then changing elements of an algorithm and then firing new information back into the body. So what sort of information is putting it in? Well, you've got the frequency of which it's delivered, as in cycles per second, and we have what we call global scaling. And this is the first of the unique things about the miHealth device. It's not functioning on what is the traditional TENS or biofeedback settings. It's specifically set for global scaling. And that was brought to us, and we were educated by Milo Wolf and others related to how global scaling can support function, growth, and efficiency of information transfer. And that was originally worked out by the Russian military, and then Milo Wolf joined the American space station and should I say space agency work, and then after about 10 years of being involved with America, he was able to start talking about what he'd been working with the Russians, and global scaling was one of them. And Professor Fraser and he spoke and shared understandings related to those, and we ended up building it into the miHealth device. And as far as I'm aware, there isn't any other device in the world using global scaling frequencies. So that's one unique element, and they provide efficiency points where you get results where you could be a very close frequency to it and not get the results. These were very, very precise frequencies that supported everything from cellular function to organs to emotional states. So these were very exact frequencies that have been built into the miHealth device. But that's only the delivery rate.
So let me just clarify one thing. So in the global scaling waves, so what we're doing is delivering information to the body, like corrective information. And a lot of people listening probably don't have any idea what any of this stuff is. And just simply put, it's the miHealth device, depending on what setting you put on it, there's about 200 different functions. It's delivering correct operating instructions to your body. And it's doing that on energy waves, on these global scalar waves, correct?
Yeah, we're writing information over the top of these very efficient frequencies. So you've got the frequency that delivers it, so to speak, to the body, and then you have information that you'd put upon that frequency, a little bit like music upon a radio station. So the music in this case is Peter Fraser's body field information, where he specifically targeted and found patterns that supported natural function. So instead of providing, should we say, poisons or toxins or agitation to the body, we're actually providing the exact information that's missing. And we do that because we do a scan, and that takes us to what the miHealth can do plugged into our remote scanning or practitioner software. It can take an imprint of the body field, compare it to the patterns that Peter Fraser had decoded, and then we're able to work out which ones are missing or need supporting, and we can then re-imprint the body with it. One, by putting it on the body itself through the electrodes, and you feel a little tingle, but actually it gets quite nice. You actually yearn for it occasionally when you've got discomfort. It'll actually go in, reset the body's functions, place Peter Fraser's patterns on that signal, and at the same time it's delivering the biofeedback. It's also producing a PMF simultaneously, and we can disengage the electrodes by pressing one of the touchscreen buttons on the miHealth, and then it becomes a pure PMF. So the PMF is the field that's being developed by the device, and we can choose if we want just to have that element as well. So we would maybe, I'll give you an example. If you wanted to treat, let's say, a large animal or a very nervous person or a child, sometimes you might not want to apply the device directly onto the skin at that point, but just being in proximity of the device is starting to interact with their body field, and that's starting to provide corrective information. So it gives much more flexibility for someone when they're in clinic or at home. They don't have to be on the body all the time. They can just place it on their desk or have it next to them. So it gives great flexibility, and it means you can treat anybody. You either touch them or you don't. The device is still making great headways with corrective information.
Okay, and you said the device is interacting with the human body field. Can you just explain that a little bit for anyone that may not be familiar with bioenergetics?
Certainly. Well, everything produces a field. Even a single electron in space vibrating, it produces a field of energy going out in every direction. And we're obviously a whole cluster of information patterns. Now, Peter Fraser did a field analysis working out what energy do we generate, and we obviously have organs individually, and we have eyes and organs and skin and bones, etc., and they have individual fields, but when we push them all together we have a body field, a whole body, a composite. Now Peter was able to read that pattern and deduce which elements are functioning within its expected range within those radiated patterns, and others maybe have lower quality distortions, maybe even holes in those patterns. And we're able to recognize those and then re-imprint them, put that information back. So the body field then has, like a jigsaw puzzle, the missing pieces are placed back, and suddenly you've got the whole picture, and in our case the whole body field, and that allows the body to escalate its own recovery, its own repairs. So it's using its own operating system.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of NES, is that NES Bioenergetics is not treating the body, so to speak. It's just getting these energetic blockages out of the way and identifying them and clearing them so that the body can heal itself. And it's just so brilliant.
Oh, it's remarkable. It really is remarkable. When you start using it in clinic, and I used it for 8 years in clinic, and it's astounding what sorts of things go on because it's non-invasive, it's non-threatening, it's very fast. It's to be honest, it's very low cost. It's an ideal tool. You can build a clinic entirely around the Nest system, or you can have it as an adjunct to anything else you're doing. I mean, chiropractors, vets, GPs, MDs, as well as homeopaths and dietitians and sports exercise people and massage therapists. The range of people who are using NES is phenomenal because they all, should we say, adapt the process for their own client base.
Yes. And so let's talk a little bit about how you used to use it. You used to have the Zap House for many, many years. Can we talk about that and like some of the things that you saw when you were using it in your clinic?
Oh, look, oh, gee, there were so many things that went on. Look, we were renowned. The Zap House was renowned for the speed of change because the Zap to us was actually fast energy transfer. That's what it was. For many people, Zap was maybe having a shock or
Yeah.
something of this nature. But as soon as they got in the place, they realised what it was about, and it was about rapid changes. And you've seen me on stage and masterclasses how we treat, and very dynamic. It's to the point. Go for it. Often we'll say, point to it, take your finger, point to the problem. Let's go for it. Because you can be as fast as that. The Nest scanning system only takes 10 seconds or so. It's remarkably fast, and with that, it applies an algorithm. So we would bring a client in, have a chat to them about what they're asking for, what they think we can provide for them, whether it's pain relief or support with digestion or weight loss or whatever their concern might be. We used to get patients with multiple sclerosis and all sorts of significant conditions. Now we would apply the Nest system to support their body field. So we weren't treating disease specifically. We were actually treating everybody in the same process. We would scan them, which involved them placing their hand either on a miHealth or one of our professional scanners. And in 10 seconds, we've got an imprint of their body field, which then the computer looks at through the ProVision software. And right in front of them on the screen, they could see what's happening in each area. And the areas we would look at would be like gross energy distortions, such as big field distortions, which are generally related to geopathic stress, living in air conditioning and the Wi-Fi world we live in, and things of this nature. They all have an impact on how gross energies distort things with us. I'm talking about maybe polarity, where we're holding much stronger charges than we were intended, and our body believes that might be an injury, so it then puts you in a detox state, and eventually you get into exhaustion because you're continuously dealing with that high polarity state. So grounding, it shows us grounding information, and these are all indicators on the screen that are instantly shown to the client. So we can start talking to them about their lifestyle, whether they swim, whether they get in the sea, whether they ground themselves, or if it's simpler to use the NES infoceutical to discharge some of those positive gross energies, huge energies. And then the next layer we'd look at things that relate to energetic drivers, which are embryonic stages. These are patterns designed to support the growth patterns that originally would have been from a cytoblast all the way through to a child being born, etc. But in an adult, those same energies are used to maintain our health throughout our life. So we're able to recognize those embryonic steps and provide them as nest drivers. And they're, again, infoceuticals that come in a little bottle, and straight away we can recognize which ones are most suitable. But let's say you've got two areas, your heart and your lungs, and maybe they've got great energy individually. But the next step is when you start running around and functioning during your day. Are they connecting correctly? Are you getting more oxygen and more pumping when you demand it, when you start running up a hill? And that coordination we refer to as integration, energetic integration. And they run parallel with the concept of meridians. So a meridian is seen to be carrying energy from one place to another. Well, Peter actually found an awful lot more information in the body related to integrating energy, and he put these into a whole section within the NES scan called energetic integrators. And again, they're infoceuticals that can be provided to a client. Then we had an area looking at pathogens. We call them energetic terrains. And this is where maybe you start getting out of proportion with funguses, for example, and viruses and things that may influence organs to not function in the way they should be. So we're able to see those in the scan, and then we're able to help the body by recognizing those with the infoceuticals again. There's another area called energetic stars, which are like a network, like a mini internet in the body, which aren't running in the same manner as the meridians, or as we refer to them, the integrators, but they're still networking survival systems of the body. So Peter had found many categories of energetic terrain on different, should we say, volumes and qualities in the body, and we were able to reapply those. His crowning jewel, really, I believe, were probably the brain holograms, one of the final works that he was involved in, where he was able to look at shock conflicts where someone has an event occur in their life, whether it's as a child or an adult or anywhere in between, and we see those in the brain having an impact and effectively interrupting brain relays, so to speak, energetic pathways that eventually lead to chronic conditions and disease. Well, instead of treating the disease, waiting for that to occur, NES is able to actually see where the blockages are in the brain and start supporting the relief and removal of those blockages with the infoceuticals. And then suddenly you get huge changes in emotional state and how people present themselves, how they think about things, and their levels of stress change. And we basically support them through to a beautiful state of recovery instead of waiting for them to become ill and then deal with symptoms. So the brain holograms are remarkable, and I've used them with veterans and people who have suffered violent crimes, people who have come out of the penitentiaries who have had diabolical experiences within those systems, and often they're incapable of describing what's happened, particularly some of the rape victims, etc., where they've been not willing to discuss and they haven't settled down to how they'll handle that in their lives. But with the scanning system, we don't have to ask them what's happened. They don't have to divulge anything. We can just ask them to relax, have a think about the things they want to change or remove or deal with, and then we get them to put their hand on the miHealth or the scanner, and within 10 seconds we've got a body field pattern, and that body field pattern we can relate to the infoceuticals and start using the priority system to decide how we're going to support them. And over the space of several weeks, they'll see changes in those energy disturbances using the infoceuticals. So the scan interacting with the miHealth from deciding infoceutical usage, and from the first page of the scan, we can directly imprint body field information with the miHealth as well.
And that's why I absolutely love about the NES health system, because for me personally, I felt like my health was in place. I've been working for years and years and years on my health, my diet and exercise and supplementation and rest, and I had reached all my health goals health-wise, physically wise, but mentally, I just wasn't there. I had been divorced recently, maybe a year before finding this, and I wasn't dealing with stress very well. I was having some issues with sleep, and I just felt frustrated and angry at times, just dealing with, life. And I didn't really know how to go about addressing that because I'd had all these years of talk therapy and I just didn't want to go back there. I felt like I'd been there, done that. And NES helped me to go from here to here. It helped me just kind of go over that hurdle mentally and deal with a lot of like mental stuff I had with such little effort. Just following the protocols and doing the miHealth and taking the infoceuticals. So it was really remarkable.
Yeah, look, it is. As soon as someone starts using the infoceuticals, when someone's inquiring, they often say, well, I want to test them for myself and I want to see they work and all this. And that's absolutely fine. I absolutely encourage that. And then when, days later, people saying, oh my God, they've changed my life. They've done this, they've done this. I'm feeling all this energy. I'm feeling this change. And you suddenly go from someone inquiring, skeptical, not really sure, to holy ghost, this has really changed my life. That's the most common thing people come back with.
and we quite enjoy that process of exploration for them.
Yeah, and so when you do the scan, you start with the NES Health scan, and then on that scan you see the ERs, so they're called energetic rejuvenators. And when you're looking at the miHealth, there's about 70 ERs in the miHealth. So tell us what those are exactly, and like the 70 different ERs and how they elicit change in the body.
Well, if I went down the whole list, we'd be here all day.
No,
But
just
they,
generally.
but effectively, what's happened is we've been able to put together composites. So they've all got numbers, and the reason they've got numbers is because we had to give them a code, because a single word didn't actually successfully encompass really what each function was. We've put them on the menu, so they've got one area word, so to speak, like heart, lung, foot, ankle, knee, etc., which might be the physical location. But in fact, within them, they've got some of them have got one, some of them have got two, some of them have got three integrators. That's information patterns running and operating like a meridian. So they've got pattern information opening up areas related to that physical tissue area. Some of them have got brain holograms in there. So the brain elements that interact with that physical tissue. Some of them have got several brain holograms and several integrators in there. So what's happened is we've stacked information on top of each other, and we operate it in what we call precession. So you'll feel frequency changes, and it might go from a low frequency to a medium frequency to a high frequency, and that'll be stepping from one global scaling frequency to the other to be as efficient as possible at delivering the information. And then each one individually will have its own special patterns for maybe the area of the body we're targeting that's come from the scan, as well as the integrators linking them together, as well as maybe brain hologram information. Each one is a masterpiece of informational layering within the device, and you can apply it, as I said, directly on the body with the electrodes, or we can have it radiating from a pattern if it's just on the desk in front of you, or in your pocket, for example. In fact, a really good example of the off-body is one of our international riders who does event riding. So he does show jumping, cross-country, and dressage literally at the top level. He's obviously nervous and anxious sometimes before going in the arena, even though he's a full-time professional. So to calm himself, he'll run the miHealth and he'll put it in his pocket. So he'll calm, but the horse responds to it too. So the two of them will calm down. So on a 3-day event, for example, a horse may be hell for leather, running across the countryside, jumping huge house-sized jumps and speeding through the countryside, and really having a full excitement and I guess locking the animal into parasympathetic, where it's fleeing almost. It's running through its natural cycle of running and jumping and achieving huge cross-country events. Now, for that same animal to be calmed down so much the following day to do dressage, where it would literally step individual steps in a perfect pattern for its marking, it involves a completely different emotional set for that animal and the rider. So within that discipline, literally they're able to calm the animals down and monitor the type of stresses that are going on, get the most perfect relaxed state, allowing the animal to concentrate and not be distracted by audiences and things like this. And the rider also goes through that same process. And we've got riders who are scanning the animal with the animal wellness system. So we've got two software groups. We've got the animal system and you've got the human system. So the rider and the animal are scanned together, and then they load patterns into the device so that they're supporting both simultaneously during an event. And this is like a leading edge. It doesn't exist anywhere else where this type of technology is being used in a totally non-invasive way. One of the YouTubes that you may have seen is me treating a bull in Michigan.
I have seen that one.
I get so much mail and so much comment about it because in real time, it's easy to find. It's just on YouTube, and it's called Calming a Bull with miHealth, and that's miHealth. And you'll see a 5,000-pound bull. It's about 7 feet to its head. In fact, it's over 7 feet, and it had a reputation for really hurting vets and wrecking things for the farmers.
But didn't it break one of the vet's collarbones because it kicked them?
It did. It's a cheekbone and his collarbone.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
So they flew me to Chicago and then drove me across three states to get me to this bull. And in around a minute, you see the animal go from swinging its head like a steam hammer, trying to kill me effectively. If it could have, it would have. To a minute later, I've got my hands behind its ears, and its muzzle is in my hand. It's drooling. It's relaxed. It's so calm, and the farmers were just knocked away. They just couldn't believe that it could calm down. It was as if we'd shot it with a tranquilizer. What we've done is take the stress out of the animal, make it much safer for anybody to handle it, much better for the animal. And we were trying to work with it for sperm mobility, actually, for breeding stock. So to start looking at how we can improve its body field patterns and to get better mobility for sperm, etc., for straws to be sent overseas for breeding. So there was a structured plan in place, and we were able to do that because the miHealth was such a non-invasive and immediate change for the animal, which is a fantastic tool to work with.
Yeah, and when I was at the training with you, part of our training was you guys had brought in this animal zoo so that we could see how to work with the animals. And I love this because I use miHealth or the NES Health program and my miHealth on my dogs. Both my dogs, or one of them was really quite sick, and the other one had a swollen saliva gland that the vet wanted to do surgery on and remove. And I was able to resolve all my health issues for my own pets and save thousands of dollars in vet bills as a result, and help them to feel better. And so when we were doing the training in Memphis, there was a llama, and you use the miHealth on one of the llamas, and you put it on. I don't know what setting you had, maybe chill or something, and the llama just melted. He just started to lay down on the ground. Within 30 seconds, he got really relaxed. And it's just a beautiful thing to see how quickly the miHealth device elicits a response in human and animals.
It is, and in fact, on that case, that llama was surrounded by maybe 30 or 40 people, and it still just went, "Oh, I just want to lie down now," which was wonderful. But we had bulls, we had a llama, we had a zebra. It was the first time I treated a zebra there. So many different animals. They all had the same response to some degree or other. Even the chickens and everybody else, everything we had there just responded beautifully.
I missed you treating the chicken. I know there were rabbits. I mean, there's like every kind of animal there that you can conceivably treat with the miHealth and with NES Health.
Well, with the off-body settings, yes, you can, and we've done experiments here with laying and things of this nature where we put infoceuticals into their water, and we recently had some keats, which are a guinea fowl, juvenile guinea fowls, and they're normally they're very, very flighty. They're a game bird, which means they'll do their very best to run away, jump in a tree, hide. They're not like chickens where they can come up and they want to interact with you. The keats are very much just run and hide straight away. Innately, that's what they are, and we've been able to change some of their behaviors so they're not as flighty, not as likely to hurt themselves, going in and out of pens, and they actually they're free every day. We open the door in the morning and they all go off, and then they come back again, which is quite remarkable for a game bird. So
they want their miHealth treatments.
They're certainly getting some reaction from it. So it does make things easier from that point of view. We don't know the limits of the technology. What we do know is that it harmonizes function, it harmonizes stress, which are the first things you need to start getting recovery, because the device The device isn't healing you. The device is allowing you to heal yourself. And that's vital to realize. So virtually anything can be supported with this technology, because we are not treating anything. We are supporting the body's natural function, and the body then gets on with its own recovery, which means you can apply it to anything and see changes in anything, and it's all controlled by the body itself, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and so let's go over some of the functions the miHealth does that you can use when you use one at home. And so I'm just going to demonstrate for any of the people watching the video. So I have it on the retina setting. This came up in my last scan. It's an ER setting. It's ER 53. And my retina keeps coming up for some reason consistently on my scans, probably because I'm blind as a bat. So I just put on the retina setting and just wave it over my eyes for 2 minutes, and that's all you do. And that's kind of like a treatment that you do. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Look, the retina setting isn't just for the retina. What's happening is it's linking together some of the knowledge related to meridians, pathways, etc. And within the scan, we can see how the liver is supporting the eye. So it's actually using the pathways of the liver meridian. It's also treating the eye locally. It's also treating the liver locally. So it's doing a whole series of things. And where I mentioned about composites, where there are layers of information in the device, and that's what we're getting benefit out of, layering it for a targeted support. And the reason you would have chosen that was because the scan is actually showing that's the should we say the area that you're going to get most benefit to support. If it just said liver, then you'd be probably working across your side and working on the liver area of it. So we're relying on the scan to give you the best direction to use the device. And as you say, that comes up on the ERs. So in this case, you're treating off body, but you could use the reciprocals as well, as in the reciprocal to your head and face might be your chest or your abdominal. You can get, if you think of them as cavities, you've got the cranial, the thoracic, and the abdominal cavity. So if you were to treat the abdominal cavity, for example, you're going to get a response in this area here as well. And it's an extension of reflexology. I've had so many wonderful results in clinic where we just treated the hand of the patient.
Or the
we
feet.
didn't even
Or the feet.
All the feet. Yeah, we didn't need to even run to the area they were pointing at, because it just had the great result. In fact, most recently I did a demonstration in a pet shop where the owner of the pet shop had a headache, etc. And before putting the device anywhere on someone, I always tend to take them by the hand and put the device in their hand and just rub their hand so they get a sensation of it. And I say in training, this is so that they get familiar with the sensation, but if you treat a hand and there's something they're uncomfortable with, they can close the hand or they can move the hand away. That means they're in charge, so to speak, and we're not superimposing it. Now I do that to make them comfortable before maybe putting it on the back of their neck or somewhere like this. But with this lady, I just treated her hand. And I was only there maybe 20 seconds, and she jumped up out of the chair. She swore at me in surprise, and she said, "My headache's gone." Do that. It was too much. It was too incredible. How did it happen? And what really she was seeing was we had treated the reflex in her hand. The device immediately stuck around the base of the thumb area and released her shoulders and neck, and her headache went away. And she was so surprised. It'd only take a few seconds. She was thinking she'd have to, treat her head and, try and help it progress bit by bit because she'd had it for quite a while. But no, it was so fast. She was in surprise and she jumped up and really was shocked how quickly it had changed things. So we were using just a simple treatment on the hand because the whole body field is like a holographic approach. It's the same information all over the body, and that's why with the scanning system we can put it on the hand, or we could put it on a child's abdominal. You could put it virtually anywhere on the body and it will see the same pattern and then analyze it for treatment.
Yeah, and I had a really interesting experience like that as well, where I had developed a cold And I was pretty much, that feeling you get when you're going to get sick. I'd been sick for most of the afternoon, and I'm like, here we go. I'm going to get a cold the next couple days. And my nose was running also very profusely. And I put it on CFI, which is cold flu immunity, and just one of the immune settings on the miHealth. And I put it on my feet. And I was actually doing a training with Debbie Hart, who's a master trainer, and she told me to put it underneath my feet to, to work on these reflexology points, this hologram that's on the bottom of our feet that is, reflective of our meridians in our body. And so I put it on my feet. Within 20 minutes, my cold was completely gone. My nose had stopped running. And I've heard this story over and over and over. Can you explain that phenomenon?
Well, you were conscious of the type of symptoms that were coming up, etc. And ordinarily, we tend to have a fairly slow process of, sleeping longer, feeling tired, and maybe feeling like we've got low energy for the next day or so, or 2 days, where drainage occurs and the body's putting energy into sinuses and mucus and things of this nature, and we're sort of accustomed to going through that cycle. Well, with the miHealth device, basically it was escalating that process, so it was done in a few hours instead of a few days. Sometimes a cold that might go on for several weeks can be brought down to a couple of days with the miHealth device. So it speeds the whole process up. We're supporting the body to work out what it wants to do, then fulfill that process as quick as possible. So we haven't hidden the cycle, we haven't hidden the process, we haven't used a drug to prevent that process. We've actually allowed the body to do it as fast as it could. It reset everything. It was happy with the result, so it didn't perpetuate the problem, and it finished its drainage as quick as it wanted to, and it was done. So that's effectively how we see it. We're not hiding those processes. We're actually forcing the body to get on with it as quick as possible, and that's where that makes it very convenient for lifestyle events.
And then there's also a folder on the miHealth called Mind, and there's different settings in here. One's called ESR, emotional stress release, inner peace, mental clarity, sleep, liberator for trauma, to help release trauma, chill, and love. And I use these settings constantly. And can you talk a little bit, maybe say about ESR and what that does?
Look, absolutely. The principle of working with the mind is, and it's been recognized for centuries. In fact, the Austrian doctor Hering, 1800 to 1880, he made up a series of things called Hering's laws of cure. And one of them, the primary one, was that the body heals from the mind, the emotions, the innermost organs. So if you want to change the stress in an organ, you've actually got to literally try and address the emotion that's being driven, and that's normally charged from the mind. So that mind folder is very helpful for supporting recovery very fast. And we tend to look at it maybe in 3 different layers. Now, ESR, right, is an acronym for emotional stress relief. Well, when we're in a superficial stress, let's say you've come to visit the clinic, you didn't know which way to go, you're on the wrong side of the road, you've just driven over the flower bed, and now you've parked and you feel like, oh gosh, what have I just done? You've got superficial stress. You may have arrived late because you didn't know your way to the clinic, for example. Now, they're all superficial. You know you're stressed, you know what's happening, and very soon you'll forget about it and you'll calm down again. But what's happening in your body? That simple emotional event causes the digestive tract to start changing function, as if you're going into a fight and flight. You're in an anxious state. Is somebody going to come out and complain about the fact you drove on the pavement or on the flowers, or is somebody going to question your timing or whatever? And you've got this level of anxiety, but it's superficial and it reacts with the gut. Now, we're only designed to ever go into that state for maybe 15 minutes, as in nature only wanted you to have a tiger fall out of the tree and then you either pounce on the tiger or the tiger pounces on you, whatever it is, 15 minutes and it's all over, it's finished. Now, we live our lives like that, where the alarm clock goes off, we check our emails, we're in the traffic, we want to get to work, we've got a meeting, we've constantly got tigers falling all around us. So we don't just get a 15-minute again, we actually get a whole day, or in fact a whole week or a whole month or a whole year of tigers, and we don't go back into the resting cycle. So the infoceutical for ESR actually tries to bring it back into a resting state within the digestive tract, so that ESR is actually supporting superficial stress that normally interrupts with our digestive tract, and that's that purpose. Now, the next level of stress is the chill infoceutical. That one is looking at not cold and flu. We don't mean chill in that manner. We actually mean about cool, chill, relax, etc.
That one keeps coming up for me. I have no idea why, but
well,
the chill setting keeps coming up for me, maybe because I need to like chill out and relax.
maybe you're not relaxing and chilling enough. Yes, it's most common, and don't take this personally, but it normally comes with addictive behaviors, because what happens is you may come out of superficial stress, but actually build up a more permanent set of stresses, habit related, where you want to get here, you want to do that, you've got to do this, and eventually you create a stress level in all the organs related to getting something done. And long term, it can distort the function of organs so that people become addicted effectively. They become addicted to that adrenaline. They get addicted to the side effects of distorting that organ function. Some of it might be smoking, some of it might be trying to get more endorphins, gambling, sex addicts, adrenaline junkies. They're people who want to get out there and do it. So your drive that you're constantly applying to what you do could be you feeding off distorting an organ energy through that. Maybe that's why it's saying, come on, just chill, just relax, because long term that's going to be much better for you. So that's the chill infoceutical, and it's both in the miHealth device, so people can have a miHealth and turn it on, and they can have it in a liquid form in the infoceuticals. And in fact, chill, I believe, is one of the feel-good infoceuticals, which can be provided to people just easily across practitioners' counter. It's a very, very effective one. And of course, whenever you're calming an organ down, sometimes you might sense some of the energies that have been involved in that organ, keeping it activated. So sometimes people sense some of the events or arguments or situations that may have brought it into a stress state, and they often recognize that on the way of relaxing as well. It comes out of the body almost like a mist of energy and understanding. So it's worth recognizing that. You've got two levels there. You've got a superficial, and then you've got a much deeper, and then you've got the liberator, which is there to help the brain holograms. So we've got 4 brain holograms. They're infoceuticals with specific functions within the brain, and then you can combine their usage with the liberator to really detox the mind of things that have been ingrained into it long term. And these often are what our parents taught us, our school teachers, our events that might have happened, bullying in the classroom, something that may be so ingrained that it affects our behavior all of our life, and we forget or don't realize why it's occurred. And this is an incredible infoceutical, because often for women, for example, when they take that one, they may go from a sense of feeling suppressed, unappreciated, unloved, the things that don't sit well with the female psyche, and they can go from those senses to elation, feeling suddenly wonderful relief. It's just a fantastic place to put the mind, so to speak. And what it does is it reduces those deep stresses that are occurred over life, so to speak. So people, it almost has a personality change where people feel wonderful as a result of no longer having those blockages affecting them.
Yeah,
So
I had an interesting experience with Liberator. It came up on my scan and I started taking it, and I had a situation where I had a boyfriend and I wanted to break up with him, but I just couldn't seem to quite muster, the courage to do that, or just take care of it, or cut the cake already. And I started taking Liberator, and within a few days, I called them and I did it. I was out of town at the time, and I called them and I was finally able to do that. I attribute that to Liberator, making that change.
It does make things much clearer. It takes some of the stress out of you and makes you see things clearer, which is wonderful. It's interesting. The male mind tends to react slightly differently to Liberator. They tend to analyze maybe some of the sources of stress. They might be upset because of a stepfather or an employer, or the way their mother used to speak to them, and go, "Oh, now I know why it's happening like this." Now, for a male mind, that means sometimes they have to mull over that and be a bit melancholy or get past it, where a female tends to go straight to the happiness at the end, which is wonderful. We often used to say, don't give it to a married couple the same week.
Yeah.
Because she feels fabulous and just wants to jump into bed and everything's wonderful, and he wants to blame somebody. So you can't. Just be careful with that one. But in moderation, they're fabulous. They really do work wonderfully, and people feel so different. It changes and saves lives. Those infoceuticals, they're incredible.
Yeah, I gave 2 bottles to my girlfriend. She kind of wasn't ready to do the whole program, but I gave 2 bottles of Liberator to her, because she had a loved one, her boyfriend, who she loved very much, pass away from colon cancer last year, and she just can't let it go. She just can't get over it. She doesn't want to date, and she just can't seem to process it. So I gave her 2 bottles of Liberator to help with that, and very interested to see the results of that.
Have you heard back yet or not yet?
She just started taking them a few days ago. I'm kind of
okay.
waiting and watching.
Wonderful. Often it'll come out during the sleep cycle. When you're sleeping, often your mind will start dreaming, imagining, acting out components, etc. And part of that is the detox of the brain and the organs, the stress elements. So it can be really quite an interesting period when people take those. Now, those 3 infoceuticals, ESR, Chill, and Liberator, are, should we say, the wide range of response within those emotional ones. But subsections of it are the love infoceutical and peace, and they're about subtler calming processes. The energy or the sense you'd get when you're doing yoga or relaxing or meditating, that's where the peace one comes in. That's a wonderful one just to round things off and relax, etc. Now the love one isn't the Hollywood wave upon wave of ecstasy thing. It's actually about connection. It's about people connecting, understanding, patience, tolerance, and it's a wonderful one to help people and animals. If you have a dog or so, where's Max is underneath the desk here. He wants to be with me all the time. Now, as a result, if I leave him for the day, when I come back, he desperately wants to be with me again. He wants to go for a walk. He wants to sit on my lap, so to speak. He's a Rottweiler Kelpie cross, which means he's way too big to sit on my lap. But he thinks he's a lap dog, and he wants that connection. And we see it with horses, we see it with humans, and it's about wanting that connection. They want to really feel part of the pack, feel part of a combining group and connecting to people. Now, we had a physiotherapist who came to one of our trainings, and she was a very junior physio, and she didn't feel quite comfortable with her role transitioning from university to practice, clinical practice. And she was still trying to get comfortable with that. And working in her first job, she was part of a much bigger practice than maybe she thought she was going to be in. And there were a lot of experienced physios. And she felt like she was almost a nuisance. She didn't feel like she knew what she was doing. And she was still finding her feet in her role. And she was very uncomfortable with how she felt, actually. And we had sent out the love infoceutical over the Valentine's period. We'd sent all the practitioners an extra bottle of love as a promotional event, caring for them over that Valentine's period. And this physio was asked to take over a role that she didn't feel she could do. She was asked to manage a project, and she was quite distressed about the idea. In fact, she went out to the car and really didn't feel right, wasn't sure how she was going to approach it, and really didn't want to do this role. And in the car, she had the envelope from NES, and she had the love infoceutical. And she told us she literally popped the top off and started swigging. No, that's what she did. And she felt a bit better, and she thought, okay, let's go back in. She went back in from the car park, and they gave her a clipboard and put her at the head of the table with all these extra physios, and she started going through the clipboard and started going through what they were going to try and do. And very quickly she realized that everybody in the room was trying to help her, and the people that she felt were maybe not helping her in the past or not connecting with her, suddenly she realized they were there for her. They were ready to support her in this role. And she realized that the problem wasn't them. It was her feeling blocked on connection. And the moment she took the love infoceutical, she suddenly was more available to connect with them. She felt their responses in a different manner. And suddenly she realized that it had changed her, and that had changed the room. Which was wonderful, and she was able to share that experience in the training.
I love that story because I think that a lot of people today have trouble connecting with people. I mean, in our internet world and being on social media, I think people are losing that sense of connection and having trouble, engaging with other people. And when I go to health conferences or any kind of other conference that I go to, I take or I do the love setting on the miHealth so that I'm able to connect with people on a deeper level. It's weird how it works. It's strange how it does that, but it does. I mean, it does elicit this response, and it's really quite profound.
It is, and I don't even know if it's I don't know if we should or we shouldn't be doing it, but we turn it on, put it in our pocket, and then people want to connect with us. So it's a cutting edge socially.
Yeah, and so there's another folder on here. So we'll go over the folders just so you guys know what the miHealth does exactly. There's all kinds of stuff that it does. So there's the physical folder. And so it has things like chronic balance, acute balance, muscles, joints, nerve, bone, after sport, and myofascial. And so I'll use this folder typically, like say if I get a stiff neck, and I'm able to release my neck muscles within just a few minutes and release, like say if I just don't have time to go get a massage or do whatever it is that I need to do to take care of myself or stretch or whatnot, I can just use the miHealth on it for a few minutes. I'll do like a little, a series of different settings. But when you get when you purchase a miHealth device, you get a PDF that has all these different protocols for various issues. That beeping you hear is my miHealth. And it's just profound. So let's go over the physical folder and what we use that for.
Sure, I've pulled mine out there. You can see it. It's a touch screen, so you literally just choose an item off it. Now, physical rejuvenation, chronic and acute, they're all broad forms of sort of kick-starting function effectively, and they go from different angles, so to speak. Chronic and acute are fairly, it's fairly easy to understand. One is where things have been there for a long period of time. You tend to get different problems related to stiffness and flushing of tissue and things, where an acute situation tends to be more to do with inflammation that may be more predominant at that point. We've got muscles, which obviously, the word describes it to some degree. You're able to flush muscles. If, let's say, you hurt a bicep from weightlifting or something, you could put it in there. You could support the joints, which is the next one down, because if you've strained a muscle, you probably overloaded the joints as well. And it's looking at supporting each of those. And we tend to suggest not to use just one setting. Let's say you thought you'd hurt your elbow. There's no point just treating the joint. You would treat with muscle, and you might treat with nerve, and you might treat with after sport. After sport is one of the settings that is designed to have a composite looking at trauma and physical inflammation and the combinations that occur after sport. But if you fell over something in the garden, that also could be treated as a sport, because it's a physical impact. It's acute. It's just happened. The fact that you didn't get any points for it doesn't mean it's not a sport from our point of view. So we've got other areas, bone, for example, biocell. Biocell helps support the function of cells generally, the mitochondria, and moving toxins in and out of cells and flushing cells. So that's highly effective. And the myofascia is very useful for supporting, should we say, things like atrophy. If you've had a patient in a wheelchair for a long time or on crutches, you start seeing the muscles start reducing, muscle tone reduce. And with this, it tries to restart that connection and help rebuild those muscles applied directly to them. So there's a whole series within the physical, all designed to provide different aspects of physical recovery. We have the energy folder. And again, there we go. There's an energy folder there with a list. And in there, we've got recharge and energy. We've got matrix carrier. Matrix carrier is the phrase we use for the way information patterns are connected together. And we think of the whole body field as being a matrix, and the matrix carrier is the way we communicate backwards and forwards around that area, around the body. So it's like reconnecting pockets of information. We've got male and female, and they're there to support the endocrine cycles. They're not injecting a hormone, but what they're doing is help balancing those processes, because the endocrine system is a closed loop. So if something's not coming up or being provided in the manner it needs to for the body, if we support the entire endocrine system, then normally the body will step in and start providing what's missing or lacking at that point.
I'm going to do that one right now.
In fact, it was the male version of that used on that bull in Michigan. Now, the logic behind that was that the grumpy old man syndrome, when hormones are out of place for men, they tend to get grumpy, don't they? And this bull was more than grumpy. It was downright miserable. So by providing that male field, it started to balance its endocrine responses, started to not be as jumpy and aggressive, seemed to be more calm. And as you'll see in the video, it literally in a minute was drooling, relaxed, parasympathetic. It was about as absolute as you could get related to immediate and absolute change for an animal of that type. It was so obvious, it was quite remarkable. Then we got general rejuvenation in here, which goes through a whole sequence of areas of the body that tries to detox and recover in a broad spectrum. There's also what we call the Chinese cycle. So on a 24-hour timer, we've got all the different sections of the Chinese clock. And I've just put it in here. And if I start running it, the first one, this time of day is heart. Let me just see if I can show you that. And it'll move through the segments over the next 24 hours. So we'll go from segment to segment, supporting each different organ. And you don't have to run it all in one go. You could do when you wake up in the morning to lunchtime, and then the following day you might do lunchtime through to the afternoon, and the third day you might do the evening or through to the morning. So you don't have to do it all in one day. And there may be certain times of the day that people feel they need more support. They might be having trouble on their sleeping cycle and feel maybe they're going to run it in the evening to help with their organs. So there's many different ways they can use that. And that's under the energy folder.
I was
I
going to
was
say there's the protection folder. I love the protection folder. I think this is so important in this day and age of EMF. We're constantly bombarded with electromagnetic fields or electromagnetic frequencies,
Yes.
and we have to protect ourselves from this. And these talk about EMFs and how they impact our body's energy field and why it's so important to address these issues if we plan to be healthy.
Look, 200 years ago, we didn't have the type of fields in our living world that we do now. And this is why homeopathy was so successful 200, 250 years ago, because when it was manufactured, made by a practitioner and provided to a client, there was no extra energies floating around from power cables and overhead power lines and Wi-Fi and smart devices, so that the resonant energy of those weak homeopathy treatments was able to survive long enough to have an impact on the person. In the world we're in now, they get wiped out very fast, if not by the time you get across the car park, because of the amount of energy that's going around that overrides them. So we realize that in every way we have to find ways of supporting the body in that new environment that we haven't evolved to. Now we're using information patterns in our body field, and they use very, very tiny energy fields. And our Wi-Fi is putting out huge energies. Our phones are every electrical device is producing a field that's interacting, and our body's seeing that as a new environment and is having an impact on how we function and how we rest. And of course, resting cycles are vital for our detoxing. So the distortions that are characterized by each of these areas, for example, microwave radiation and computer radiation, cell phone, etc., they have a very distinct footprint. And Peter Fraser was able to recognize how those footprints disturb the body field. So we're able to provide what is effectively the antidote. It's a reversal of those distortions. I used to get it with my laptop, where my fingers used to go bright red and they'd itch if I spent many hours on my laptop. By putting on EMF, I can actually bring that back to normal and not have all that itching and sensation. So long term, it's got to have an impact on my own health and my hands, etc. And it's the same for each one of these. We've got air travel, we've got radiation from cell phones and radios, computers, far infrared, microwaves. They all have their own footprint that Peter could see in the scan, and it's there to help the body repair the damage of those fields. And it's a dynamic. The body is constantly dealing with it and constantly trying to support itself within our new environment. And this is trying to supercharge that change and reset those damaged fields.
Yeah, computer radiation always comes up for me because, like most of us, we're chained to our computers with our work or what have you, and I have to do a lot of work. And I am working, I put it on the computer radiation setting to counteract how the computer's EMFs are negatively impacting my body's energetic field.
Yeah, and there's something worth knowing, because people hear, oh, the miHealth has got PMFs coming out of it, and often without knowing, they could think, oh, well, gee, we're just adding another PMF problem, but actually not. What's happening is the miHealth device produces such a low PMF, it's thousands of times less than your mobile phone or your Wi-Fi, and the pattern is specifically designed to support the body field. So it's very low energy. In fact, the British military research labs on the south of England, where Sarah Turner, the researcher for NES, took the device to try and have them check the PMF values. They could not read the field coming off the miHealth. So from an electromagnetic field point of view, it is so low, it doesn't exist as far as our modern world goes. But actually, from a biological point of view, it's there. We see response, and we get great results from it, which is perfect. So it's operating at such a low level. It's actually doing the right thing for the body field. It's not adding extra stress, and it's reimprinting patterns to dislodge the damage that's done by these gross magnetic energies. So it's worked brilliantly, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it shows in the research. I mean, completely independent of NES or bioenergetics, massive amounts of research that show that microwaves and cell phones and cell phone towers and the like cause cancers and leukemia and all kinds of different health issues, because and why is that? It's because these microwaves or EMFs dramatically impact our body, and how they're doing that and causing cancers and causing other kinds of health issues is by impacting and affecting our body's energetic field.
Yeah, that's how we communicate around our body. And if our mind is stressed all the time, it's just adding to the distortions. So using the device simultaneously has a huge impact. And I can't understate enough the use of the infoceuticals with that, because one is providing an electrical field with information patterns, and the other is providing it in a salt water solution, which is what you and I are made of. We're salt water. So as soon as we provide the infoceutical, we can also support in that plane as well. And you've got EMF as an infoceutical specifically for that as well. So you can combine those two to get the very best result.
And so there's also a folder called Well-Being, and this has a lot of different things in it. It's got the immune ETs, which help the immune system, CFIs, that cold flu immunity, and there's a bunch more here. Let's go down the row and kind of explain what these are.
Yeah, look, you've got the immune ETs. Now, ET is one of the NES acronyms, energetic terrains, and they're whole groups of pathogens that affect the body, in fact, footprints that pathogens leave behind. And then we're clearing that information or debris. And so the ET range is built into the miHealth device. Then you've got the cold and flu, which is what you spoke about earlier, where it dramatically escalated your rate of recovery, so it was hours instead of days. That alone can really change people's lives when they wake up on a Monday morning and they go, gee, I just can't make it to work. If you were to turn your miHealth on and treat your hands, for example, while you're making breakfast, you'd be off to work without any hesitation and feeling much better about it. We've got the food one here, which is looking at distortions that come from food, based often on preservatives and toxins and materials that find their way into our food. It also makes it easier to metabolize using the food settings here. Digestion. Now, not many people realize this, but vitamins and minerals and all the things we want out of our nutrition, all of what we take in are based on electromagnetic footprints. We take in these valences and use them, and our gut is an electromagnetic conversion device. It takes those fields and then puts them with catalysts and turns them into all sorts of things that we then turn into physical function. So digestion responds beautifully to resetting and making our digestive tract more efficient. And the digestive tract is one of the core elements of our immune system. So it's a very important area to work with. We've got head and skin and memory. These are all components of the body that are supported with the device here. If you have a headache, if you're feeling foggy-headed, can't concentrate, things of this nature, that's an ideal setting. The head. The skin isn't just the skin externally, it's actually all the epithelial layers as well. They're the internal systems. So this one in the training and the materials you get lets you understand that the skin of your lungs, for example, and your digestive tract and your anywhere, basically the ear, nose, and throat areas. They're all epithelial skins, and you get a great result supporting those with this as well. You've got memory, which helps, should we say, smooth out memory functions. And I remember in training we had a client who had a very large scar from a war in Africa, and he was treated with memory on the scar. And the most interesting thing occurred. Literally, there was like an energetic burst from his scar. Both the practitioner, myself, most of the room, and very much so the patient all recognized this striking event. And it was actually, he said it felt like the shrapnel that went through his side suddenly came alive again, and it was the memory of the event locked into the cells of the scar, and it was a very predominant scar on his side. Within minutes, we started seeing the scarring definition started to reduce. So with the memory in this case, we were able to unlock memories within that cellular area, which suddenly meant that the physical tissue started to soften, become more functional, and that has to have a huge impact on the organs below that area. Now that is something that we found literally in practice, releasing energy from cells with memory. And if you look at cesarean scars and things of this nature, there's a huge amount of emotion built into that scar because of the traumatic way in which it's placed there during birth. The anxious mother and the strange environment of the hospital and all the rest of it. So by using memory, you can start softening those areas and getting really great changes related to cesarean scars and other scars that may have maybe a traumatic starting point. We've got the anti-aging, which is there to help with hormonal functions and other rejuvenation processes throughout the body. We've got the hearing to try and help with function of the ear, and it's actually not just the ear itself, it's actually helping with the way the brain integrates with those tools. So we often are opening up connection to the mind. And then we've got fat. Now that's to do with fat metabolizing. It's not a magic wand. It's not liposuction, so to speak. But what it's going to do is basically allow fats to be processed easier and faster, which is going to take stress off the liver and other areas of the body, etc.
And admittedly, I use that setting a lot. Just try to help my body lose fat. But yeah, I do use that setting a lot.
I look forward to the feedback on that.
Yeah.
Super. Now, these are only a few of the folders. We've got transformations as well. Now, in the scan, in the mind area, you've got the chakras laid out. We can actually see what chakra points are open, what's happening in that area, which ones maybe would benefit by further support. And within the transformations of the device, you can actually run either a cycle that runs from one to the other over a period, or you can target one in particular if in the scan you feel there's something that you really want to work on. For example, love or contentment, honesty, charisma, tolerance, willpower, trust, all of those characteristics we can support and really get the best results for ourselves. This one has been very popular with people who like to find a space for themselves and calm down, maybe sit in the garden, have a cup of tea, read a book, have this one running by the side, and it's where you can have reflection for yourself. It's not one we encourage when you may be busy doing something during the day. It's one where you actually need to prepare and really bring on those energies in a really positive way for yourself, so to speak. Look, and it's probably worth mentioning that any of these functions, when you do a scan with your client, if they're doing a remote scan, so they can have a device at home and they can plug themselves in, and the practitioner can see the scan, they can discuss it, and then you can have a dedicated folder. The practitioner can literally click a few boxes, and then that folder will be sent directly to the client's miHealth, and it might say maybe the name of their child, it might say, Charlie or Henry or Mary, and in that folder will be 8 settings that will be perfectly set up for that person. And in fact, you can add up to 20 folders. So they might have 3 horses and 2 dogs and a cat and a zebra,
Yeah.
as well as members of the family, so human and animal, all together in the same device.
Yeah, I have
Uh,
myself, my daughter Winter, my dog Wizard, and my dog Jezebel all have their own little folders in their My Health, so I can very easily just treat them. Boom, boom, boom. I go through their little 8 settings that based on their Nest scans to just quickly treat them.
Yeah, it really makes it easy. So in that way, even though the client might have all the settings on here, you've packaged them in one folder, so it's their application for that month. So they just hit that one button, and they don't have to get confused about going anywhere else on the device. Because as you pointed out, it has over 200 functions. It really is jam-packed with information, but none of them are wrong either. So you could randomly go through and enjoy any of them, because the body field will only take up the information patterns that are relevant. As in, if it doesn't have the hole in the jigsaw puzzle, it won't take on the new pieces. So it's wonderful from that point of view. You can't overdose on it. You can't poison yourself with it. You can only support as the body's willing to support.
Well, Cyril, thank you so much for reviewing all the different functions of the My Health and, giving giving us some information about what it does. I mean, it's such a revolutionary device that you helped to develop, and I only, can encourage people to get one and try a Nest Health scan, try a Nest Health program, and get a My Health and just see the results for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And the My Health is a result of over 35 years of research by Professor Fraser and Harry Massey and the team. And I was just very honoured to be part of the final delivery and putting together elements of it at the end. But it's a world team that put this together, and it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and everyone will have links in the show notes if you want to get a My Health for yourself. There'll be lots of different links about anything that we mentioned today in the show. Thank you so much for listening, and I only hope that you will try a bioenergetic Nest Health program for yourself and see what it can do for you. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I absolutely am so passionate about bioenergetics, and I wanted to bring you some shows about this and also let you know I'm starting a completely new podcast, completely devoted to bioenergetics and increasing energy levels in your body called Supercharged. And I'll be hosting that with Harry Massey, who's a really good friend of mine, and the CEO of nesthealth.com. So you can look forward to that. That'll be on my website on live110.com and on iTunes. Just search for Supercharged. Thanks so much for listening to the Live to 110 podcast. You can find me on live to110.com and on mineralpower.com. Thank you so much for listening.